Welcome everybody, my name is Paul and I'm a licensed real estate professional in the western part of Virginia near Lexington. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to homestead but not to be too far away out in the boonies. There's a very interesting compromise that people try to achieve right now because we can work in the countryside if we have access to the internet, but we don't want to be too far away from the schools or the shopping and the things that we need like hospitals. And I've traveled quite a bit in life and I've seen a lot of the big cities, and frankly, that's why I live in the rural part of Virginia because it's so wonderful. We have such low stress, a lot cheaper generally, and lots of open space for children and recreation and so on. And yet, you don't have to deny yourself access to things that are really important, maybe hospitals, maybe schools for your kids, or job opportunities. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about where I live. I live near Lexington, and I'll show you a little bit of a map here. So, basically, Lexington, Virginia is up in this area here. And as you can see, Route 81 comes down all the way through here, and it's all really, really beautiful. This is the western part of Virginia has mountains, and the Blue Ridge Parkway is in here, and there's trails. The Appalachian Trail runs up there. It's just a whole gorgeous corridor. Now, if you want to live near a small city, we have a number of them here. There's Lexington, then there's Stanton and Waynesboro, which is nearby. Charlottesville is over here. Charlottesville was a city that was rated very, very high in recent years for just hospitals, jobs, and so on. They have an airport there. On the other hand, frankly, Charlottesville is getting really expensive and also very complex and heavily developed. So there is a corridor that you go south of Charlottesville. This is all beautiful countryside and wine. Generally, the hills in Virginia are over on this side because it rises from the ocean on the east side up through what they call it's a plateau area, sort of like, and then it rises up to the mountains where the Blue Ridge Parkway is, and then it goes into West Virginia. So all these little marks are along this corridor. Front Royal's at the top of the Shenandoah Valley, which is gorgeous here. Shenandoah Valley, this is Front Royal. You see how this is an absolutely gorgeous valley. The Shenandoah River runs down here. You can go tubing and canoeing, and it just goes for miles and miles. And then you have this valley here, and Charlottesville is down here. So the Blue Ridge Parkway goes up this hill all the way through to the top till you get to Front Royal, where there's a lot of recreation and people come from DC area. This area here is absolutely gorgeous. It's historic in nature. There are Civil War battles and so on, and people settled here for a reason because it's all beautiful farmland, homestead, trees, timber, everything you need, water, and therefore, if you live near one of these cities, you see how you don't have to go in some of the bigger cities. You can see these loops around them, big, huge, complex loops. Like if you go to, say, Richmond, Virginia, you'll see that, or around the D.C., forget it. There's just endless highways and loops around everything. But you won't see that in some of these smaller towns, you see. So, for example, this is Stanton here. If you go west from Stanton a little bit, boy, you're in a beautiful area. There's another valley here. And then you get into Hot Springs, Virginia, which was historic. A lot of hot springs around there. There's warm springs. Bath County, they call it. There's an airport up here. I think it's in Hot Springs, somewhere up there. Somewhere there's a little airport up on the top there, where all the people who have a little extra money go there. And anyway, I live down a little further south here. So again, if you follow 81 all the way down here, you get through down here to, there's a beautiful little tiny town called Floyd, Virginia, which is historic. There's music and stuff going on there. Then there's the Catawba Valley. There's a lake down here and a lot of recreation down this way. And it's all just absolutely gorgeous. And you can see how you can go up the cities, you can go up the highways. For example, where I live, I'm only 2 miles from Route 81. And when I get to 81, I can zip down a nice, smooth, no traffic drive, all the way to Lexington, get my things. There's everything there. There's a couple of colleges. There's hospital there. There's the intersection of Route 64. Route 64 comes in down Lexington right around here. On this map, you see where Lexington is. Route 64 comes in from West Virginia, and you go up there and you get into some serious hills up there, and then it follows up Route 81 for a while, then it goes over and it gets to Waynesboro. Waynesboro is a delightful town, I have to say. No really high buildings. It's got a beautiful park with a public pool, a saline pool, and a small river runs through the town. And there's another park, and they have a little acoustic area where they play music sometimes in the summertime, and the kids can go wade in the little river. It's not that deep, and you can feed the ducks, and just a delightful place to raise your kids. And then you go into some of the developments in Lynchburg and some of these small towns. They're historic. They're not like these cookie cutter develops like you get near Columbus, Ohio, and places like that, where they just say, okay, boys, here's the map, lay it out, it's all flat land, just go to it, stamp, 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 make a development here, here, here. In Virginia, you can't really do that because it's very hard to build like a development if there's all hilly land, especially if some of it's steep. You see, you can build a private home on a fairly steep land, but you're not likely to find a developer come in there and build a bunch of houses on terrain like that, because it's just a lot more expensive to build them, and you don't even know if you can sell them. So what I suggest people do is get familiar with some of the smaller towns. I encourage people to come to Virginia. It's just a lovely place for homesteading. It's so well supported. And where I live, every day I drive and I see hundreds and hundreds of little fall farms and different kinds of animals and lots of cattle. Virginia produces a lot of Angus cattle, a lot of dairy cattle. They also have, I've seen alpacas, llamas, mules, donkeys, chickens, of course, ducks, goats, different kinds of goats, sheep. They're all here in Virginia. So it's a really beautiful area. But like I said, if you want to do that in a suburb, you can't really do that. See, like I used to live in, for example, near Columbus, Ohio. And you drive like 25 minutes on a highway with lots of traffic. You finally get to this little suburb that once upon a time was a farm, but now it's all busy and crazy. And it's one of the top zip codes in the country, but I wouldn't want to live there. You couldn't pay me. So then now you got to drive 40 miles out of Columbus, Ohio before you can maybe get a little flat farm somewhere. And in the Columbus, Ohio area, wherever there's a lot of flat land, you see huge, big mega farms, you see, and then you got to compete with the people who buy that kind of land. If you want a small homestead, you go into areas like in here, where the terrain is, you get a lot of small parcels and farms, and they're joining little streams, and they might have a variety of terrain right on your property. You might have a little hilly area on your property, as well as a little bottom area where there's a little stream or something. So, again, the main point of this particular video is to talk about how you can live and enjoy that country life with the proper kind of zoning and the right kind of terrain, the right kind of soil, and the community support, and still be only an easy, traffic-free, pleasant ride, 20-minute drive to any kind of a town where you can get everything you need. And there's jobs there. You see, a lot of times people who want to homestead, they depend, of course, on maybe a livelihood, maybe a couple jobs if it's a couple, and they might be in different locations. So it may be by having more and more towns available. For example, if you live in this general area, you can go to Roanoke, you can go to Lynchburg, you can go to Lexington. There's Stanton's a nice town. There's a number of places around where there might be job opportunities, and they're expanding and so on. So that's another thing to look at. If you have like 20, 30 miles down one road and there's only one town nearby and you have to take that one road to get there, God forbid if there's a traffic jam or something, and then that's it. But in an area where you have multiple options, you see, where I live, I can go to Lynchburg. There's interesting stuff going on over there, and artsy stuff, and college, and a hospital. Then I go to Roanoke. There's stuff going on there. Private brewery. There's wine producers down south of Charlottesville, in this area. So again, the emphasis here is to find an area where they have reasonably small towns that have everything you need, but you're not way out in the boonies. And among the towns I mentioned here, just go over them again, we have Lexington, which is near a little town called Buena Vista. The railroad used to run through there. And the combined area is just a lot of opportunity for beautiful little homesteads. Stanton. Stanton is up a little closer. It's about a 45-minute drive north of Lexington, and that's another area, historic, and it's tied into the western area. Stanton, Virginia is here. I beg your pardon, here. So Waynesboro's here. Blue Ridge Parkway is going through here. So then you go from Stanton, and you can see very quickly you're out in the countryside. Lots of farms. So if you like big scale farming, there's a lot of that in Virginia also. You can buy land for cattle if that's your aim. There is land, and people will sell land, and they love to sell it and continue in agriculture. Farmers will often try to buy good land if they can add some cattle to their herd, because every one of those cattle is $3,000 or $4,000 walking around. So you can see how they might like another 50 of them or so. Lynchburg, Roanoke. Roanoke is a little down here, a little farther south. Roanoke is here. There's an airport there in Roanoke. And Smith Mountain Lake, which I have to mention, I'm going to do a video about that, but Smith Mountain Lake is a recreational dam. There's 500 miles of coastline and a couple of rivers that come in there. And all around here, there's pastures and farms and scenery and just gorgeous area. Long valleys that look like heaven on earth, actually. I have to show you some pictures. If you look around on the internet and you'll see pictures of the Blue Ridge Parkway, and there's all kinds, there's waterfalls, there's trout streams nearby. That's another thing about living in a country where you don't have to go far for your recreation. There's some areas of the country where if you want to take your kids out to see a nice park or some waterfall or something, you got to drive for miles and miles and make a whole production out of it. But where I live right now, personally, within 10 minutes I get to a nice little stream and have a little fun down there. And if I get tired or the kids are unhappy, the grandkids, I just bring them on home. In fact, where I live, actually, personally, there's a stream right at the bottom. I can just walk down there and get in there. So, again, thanks for listening. Please like and share. I'm trying to get some information to help people buy homesteads in Virginia. I'm a specialist in this area in rural property. I enjoy rural life myself, and it's just a wonderful way to live. If you're retired and you're asking the question, well, can you do the internet? Of course there's internet out here. They just installed brand new high-speed internet all up in one area that hadn't had it before, and then in many of the areas you can get the satellite or whatever. And I have a portable internet. I live in the country and I have high-speed internet where I live, and I depend on it totally, so that's definitely available. So thanks again for listening. Please like and share. My contact information I provide in the main heading of this website here. I have another little website called virginialandowners.com, but most of it all just points right here to this YouTube channel. So thanks again. I hope to see you in some of my other videos.